Welcome back, team. So before we get started with this week's lesson, I just wanted to share 3 quick tips for how to make the most of our online classroom. Number 1, find a quiet place. And if you can, use headphones while you're there. So if you're on your phone or your Chromebook or a laptop or a tablet, it's important for you to find a place where you're be able to focus and really lock in to what's going on so that you have no distractions around you. And so that place could be your closet, it could be underneath your bed, it could be your backyard or your basement, anywhere in your house or apartment where you know that you will have 100% focus on what you're learning. Tip number 2, grab a pencil or any writing utensil, really, a Flair pen, a pen, and a piece of paper, and get ready to engage by taking notes. Feel free to pause this video at any time, but make sure that you are engaged by actually doing the math along with me instead of just watching the video and watching someone else do the math yourself. And then finally, tip number 3, post a follow-up comment on Google Classroom. Make every effort that you can to make sure that you're staying connected and engaged either with me or with one of your classmates. Now grab your pencil and let's get started. All right, team, so before we get started, a couple of things that I wanted to make sure to remind you of. If you need to, you can pause the screen and go ahead and take notes using the words that are behind me. First, a proportional relationship is a relationship between two quantities. We call those x and y, an ordered pair, aka the coordinate pair, in which the ratio of one quantity to the other is constant. A couple things to keep in mind with proportional relationships. When you graph them, they're always going to have a constant rate of change. That's why when you graph them, it's always going to be a straight line. Proportional relationship will also always pass through the origin. The origin, remember, is 0, 0. That's the ordered pair for the origin. When we're graphing relationships that are proportional, a couple things that you have to keep in mind as well. To know the coordinate plane basics. Those are just things that you have to know. You have to know your x-axis and your y-axis. Remember that the x-axis is horizontal. It goes from left to right. The y-axis is that vertical line that goes from top to bottom. And then when you're graphing using equations, substitution is going to be your friend. So whenever you're given an ordered pair, you want to take the x value and substitute that, and the y value and substitute that to help you figure out what your intercepts are and see if there is indeed a proportional relationship. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Example number 1, graph y is equal to 2x. Now, before we graph any line on our coordinate plane, we need some ordered pairs to work with. But we don't have any ordered pairs. What can we do? That's right, we can go ahead and substitute. So let's say x is equal to 0. What's y going to be? That would be our first ordered pair. So if x is equal to 0, we'll substitute for 0 when we see that x. Y is equal to 2 times 0. Well, what's 2 times 0? That's 0. So y would be equal to 0 as well. Our first ordered pair then, we could write down be 0, 0. We've got one dot that we can add on our line. Let's move on. What if x is equal to, let's say it's equal to 2. If x is equal to 2 and we have to graph y is equal to 2x, we can go ahead and substitute. When we see the x, we can write down 2. What's 2 times 2? It's 4. Y is equal to 4. So for this first example, we had our ordered pair that was 0, 0. For this second example, what would be our ordered pair? Yeah, it would be 2, 4. So we'd find 2 on the x-axis. We would find 4 on the y-axis. And that would be our second point. Graph that line. Hopefully yours is going to be a little bit more neater than mine. We can graph using a table as well. When you're given a table, like this one that you see on the board, we can set our table parts to an ordered pair so that this first column we could say is x, the second column would be y, and then we would have our first three ordered pairs that we could use to graph. We would have 2, -3. We would have 4, -6. And that final ordered pair that we could use to graph, 6, -9. For question number 3, we have 4x minus 1 is equal to 3y plus 5. And we're asked, is the ordered pair 3, 2 a solution? Now, when finding the solution to two variable equations like this one, it's as simple as just substituting for the given x and y values to see if the result is a true statement. And remember, every ordered pair gives you two values. It gives you the x value and it gives you the y value. So you get both values, x and y, that you can substitute. So let's go ahead and do that and see if what we get would be a true statement. So every time I see that x, I'm going to substitute and write down 3. Every time I see that y, I'm going to write down 2. So instead of writing 4x, I would write down 4 times 3 minus 1 is equal to 3. And in parentheses, I'm going to substitute for that y value, which is 2. Then I'm going to add 5. What's 4 times 3? That's right, it's 12 minus 1 on one side. It's 3 times 2. That's right, it's 6. Plus 5 on the other. 12 minus 1, 11. 6 plus 5, also 11. 11 is equal to 11. That's your true statement. So since that is a true statement, then yes, we can say that 3, 2 would be one solution for this two-variable equation. Example number 4. What are intercepts? Well, the x-intercept is the point where a line crosses the x-axis. You can say the same thing for the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the point where a line crosses the y-axis. And we can find both the x and y-intercepts in a couple of different ways. From an equation, like 3x plus 2y is equal to 6, we can set one of the variables to 0 and then solve for the other to find its intercept. From a graph, it's a little easier because wherever that line crosses on the x or y intercept, or the x or y axis, well, that's your intercept. So, for example, on this line, the y-intercept will be somewhere in the negatives because it's crossing right here below that x-axis. So our y-intercept is there. Our x-intercept crosses the line here. So that would be our x-intercept. So let's see if we can find the x and y-intercepts from an equation. We set x equal to 0 and then substitute. We'll have 3 times 0 plus 2y is equal to 6. 3 times 0 is 0. So we're left with 2y is equal to 6. We can divide both sides of the equation by 2 to get the value of y. Y is equal to 3. So when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 3. So my y-intercept for that particular line would be 0, 3. Y-intercept is 3. For the same equation, let's set y is equal to 0 this time and solve for x. Y is equal to 0, we would have 3x plus 2 times 0 is equal to 3. That would leave us 2 times 0, that's 0. 3x is equal to 6. I can rewrite it this way. How would I solve for x? Right, just divide both sides by 3. And here, x would equal to 2. So let's say 2 is here. That would be my x-intercept. And I can go ahead and start to graph that line. And that would be the line for 3x plus 2y is equal to 6. My y-intercept was 3. My x-intercept was 2. And now it's time for you to practice. Remember that if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact me at any time during the week via text, email, or by dropping a comment on Google Classroom. Stay connected, stay safe, and thanks so much for watching.